Welcome to another video of Andrew is 360. I am going to continue today on financial intelligence, following up from my last video on cash flow. So today I want to talk specifically on assets and liabilities. There's a big difference between them, and I just want to pretty much go through the basics of them and get a foundational understanding of the difference between them. So, first up, what is an asset? It just simply puts money into your pocket. And a few examples I put down here are cash, stocks, bonds, real estate, if you use it the right way, rental vehicles, trademarks, inventory, retirement accounts like a 401k, or royalties. So, those are the basics of assets because you're using all of those products to generate income for you. They all come circling back into that income column for you. And yes, it may cost money to purchase the assets, but they are producing money for you and they're working for you and just cycling back into the income statement. So opposed is the liability, and it just takes money out of your pocket. Examples of this is like loans, car payments, taxes, mortgage, credit card debt, accounts payable if you owe money to somebody else. These are all liabilities. And so um, the main hiccup that people think, okay, a liability is an asset, is a home. And it just depends on how you use the home. If it's a rental property, then it's an asset because the tenants are paying you, the landlord, money every single month. But if you just buy a house and just pay the mortgage off from your income from your job, that would be a liability because you're producing no money. You're just spending money on the mortgage payment. Another example is the automobiles. There's always going to be maintenance, which is a liability, and insurance is always a liability. But to make a car an asset would be the rental cars. So you rent out the cars, somebody is paying you to use the car, and then that goes back into your income because you're getting paid for that. Opposed to like purchasing a new car, that goes straight into your liabilities because you're just using the car and spending money on it, and you're not generate any income from that. So I actually typed up a few examples here. So example number one of using emotion in finance, because like I said, using emotion in finance is not good. You have to make sure that you're aware of your emotions and your logic when you're making decisions about finance and purchasing an asset or liability, and just do a risk to benefit analysis, a cost benefit analysis, and just determine your risk. So I made a little example here of using emotion in finance. A young man has a job and is making a good income. It exceeds his monthly expenses and has more money than he knows what to do with. So he decides to purchase a brand new sports car. The loan term is 5 years with an interest rate of 7.5% APR, and his insurance goes up 20% because it's a sports car. So I'm going to draw up a little bit more to put this in perspective. So let's say he already had a car that was paid off and he was spending $100 on insurance, and say that the car cost him $30,000. Okay, divide that by 5 years. 30,000 divided by 5 years is $6,000 a year divided by 12. So that's about $500 a month. And that's without taxes and everything. So we're just gonna just go right to it. $500 a month that he's paying for this car. and his insurance goes up 20%. So now he's paying $120 on insurance, and then gas. Let's say he spends about $200 in gas a month. Um, so you see how this is adding up, and you got to do the registration for your insurance once a year. I mean your license plate once a year. So we're already looking at 120 plus 500 plus 200. We're looking at about $820 a month for a car payment, just because he wasn't financially intelligent and is paying this off. So that $820 is a big old liability that you don't need to spend. So I understand if you need to buy a car to get places, totally understand that. But I always say that a new car is just a liability because it goes down in value once you purchase it. 2 years later, it's nowhere close to the value that you purchased it at. So it's always good to just buy used cars. But eventually, if your assets are exceeding your job and you just feel comfortable, then buying a new car is more of a luxury. So I made another example here, and it's using, excuse me, it's using logic in finance. So, same scenario. A young man has a job and is making a good income. It exceeds his monthly expenses and has more money than he knows what to do with. So, he decides to purchase stocks that are predicted to increase 400% in 3 years. Each share he purchases is $15 and uses $200 a week from his income. Okay, so let's do a little bit of math here. So he purchases each share at $15 and uses $200 a week. So 200 divided by 15 is about 13 shares. So he's purchasing 13 shares a week. Okay, and it's predicted to be above, like, go 400% in 3 years. So let's just say for this stock, just for the sake of it, he purchases 13 shares a week for 1 year. So 13 times 52 weeks. He has 676 shares of stock that he purchased, and 52 times 200. So he has $10,000, just over $10,000 invested in this stock. Okay. And then he just leaves it there and lets it sit. And then the 3 years go by and say he's ready to sell those shares because it's at maturity. Um, so it goes up 400%. So 15 times 4, it's $60 a share. And he already has 667. So 60 times 676 is $40,560. And that is, boom, that is a $30,000 increase. And you may think it's not possible because the stock market's kind of risky. But if you research stocks that you truly believe aren't going anywhere and they have a solid company and they seem to have a great foundation and they're always selling, companies are going to do fine. They're just going to keep going. Um, and this is obviously just an example, but that's just what I'm saying. Like the potential, if you just put a little bit money aside and purchase assets, they'll accumulate over years, and then you can use that money. You could use that 30,000 to just purchase the car. And the other example is $30,000, so you could just purchase the car there. So I'm going to go back to the cash flow equation and just do both of the scenarios here. Okay. So the first example that I did was the one where the guy is using emotion and he purchases a brand new car. Okay. So this is what the cash flow equation looks like there. So he has his job, making a lot of income. So here's his income. And then he has his bills that he needs to pay. That's all of his expenses. But he purchases the car, which is a loan. Okay. So see how that goes right into the asset, I mean, into the liability column next, and then out. So it's just a big expense because he's not getting any money from that. He's only paying money from that from his job. Now, the scenario on two where he's using logic purchasing assets. Okay, so he has his job, that's his income. He still has expenses that he needs to purchase. Okay, but he's purchasing assets next. Okay, so see how that's going into the asset column? He's purchasing assets, and then those assets mature after 3 years in the example. See how that circles right back into the income? Circles right back in there. So he has his job, getting his income, goes through his expenses that he needs to pay for, and that purchases the assets that grow over time. And then it just goes right back into the income. And as I said in my previous video, the cash flow equation, what it looks like for a rich person is just asset column, income, asset, income. So it's pretty simple. Okay. Well, that's my entire presentation today. So thank you for tuning in. I hope this helped you. Like I said, I'm just doing this because I'm trying to have an understanding of financial wisdom, and I am trying to be financially free myself. So when I'm making these videos, I kind of am speaking it into existence, and I'm trying to help other people understand too, because this is not an easy thing to talk about, and it's not an easy thing to understand when there's a lot of things to purchase and there's high emotions involved. So just being smart with it and just learning the basics is step number one, I feel like. So if you like this video, please subscribe, and if you want to be financially free, comment below why you want to be financially free, and if all of this what I explained makes sense in a simple manner. I'll see you in the next video. I'll talk more about assets and liabilities. And I'm so excited to see my growth in the future and your growth in the